All right, guys, today we have a special guest for you. We have Nimāi Nitāi Dāsa. Now, he has his self-titled YouTube channel where he talks about Vaishnavism, Krishna, philosophy, Sanatana Dharma. So I'm sure we're going to get into some of the ancient Vedic scriptures, which he seems to know a lot about, and kind of like learn something here.
We're going to learn a lot.
Yeah. All right, guys, won't keep you waiting. Let's get into it. I think it's good sometimes to maybe get a little bit of an introduction from our guest. I think probably you can introduce yourself a lot better than we can introduce you.
Sure.
So maybe you could just start there.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada. So French is my first language and English was second. My parents were already into this Krishna consciousness movement. So if you do not know about it, it's been started in the Western world by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So he started that in 1965, and he preached all the way to 1977 before he left. And so it was very big in the 60s and 70s. The Hare Krishna were everywhere. They were in the movies. Everybody knew about us. Now it's tamed down. There's some reasons for that. So he started this international Krishna consciousness movement, which actually the flavor of that movement started 500 years ago we'll get to me. I need to speak about that first. So Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he started this Sankirtan movement, which is to chant the holy name of God loudly. So that everybody gets purified. And this is the mood. So to go out and to chant the name of God, that's the main core of the movement, and study the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures. Maybe you've heard of the Vedas, like that. So the Bhagavad Gita mainly. So that was started 500 years ago, but it's not something that really started 500 years ago. But the way to do it, to go out and chant, was started 500 years ago. And it was only in India. So, but it was broadcasted by Srila Prabhupada in the 60s, like that. So one of the places that he opened, actually the third temple that he opened first in New York, then in San Francisco, then in Montreal. So third place is Montreal, where I was born. And my parents, they grew up into the hippie era. So they were kind of hippies. And as many hippies, they started to look for some alternative to the way that their parents were living their life, the traditional, North American way. So they started to look at the Eastern religions and so on. And then they ended up getting a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. Not any Bhagavad Gita as it is. So it's this is the Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada wrote. So there's the as it is here, which is important. Okay. So they started to read this Bhagavad Gita, and that's where their lives changed. They decided to inquire further and further and read and associate with those who are already on this path. And so was I born. They met into that movement, and I was born in 1988. So as a child, they used to bring me to the temple. They used to, bring me to the festivals and all, to the congregation of what we call devotees, those who are devoted to God, devotees. So, and in this way, I grew up. I didn't know that I was different from the normal North American kid, and I was going to the temple, and I was, but you don't really understand at that time. So like that, I just grew up, and when teenage came, 13-year-old, you go to high school, what do you learn in the so-called educational system? I learned to smoke, I learned to drink, I learned to fight, I learned to, so all this stuff. And so that was the end of my little introduction as a child to spiritual life. I just became a very normal North American kid, very lost with many, you know how it is, right? Drugs and so on. So that's it. And then when I turned about 18, 19, I decided to come to China, or more, my mother said, why don't you go to China? My older brother was here already. So I said, okay, I'll just go there. I was not doing anything good anyway in Canada. So I came here to start teaching English. And before leaving, my father gave me this Bhagavad Gita that I just showed you. But it was wrapped, it was sealed for many years. And it's in 2014 when everything materially in my life was at its best. I was making good money in China. I was, you know, frequenting many beautiful girls and so on, you know, whatever they so-called sell to us that the pleasure lies into. That's what I was in. And I was feeling myself the most miserable. I was thinking there's something wrong, you know, what is going on? Now I've got whatever I've been wanting before, but I feel the most miserable. So I was thinking, is it just me or is everyone? I was thinking it's just me in the beginning. I was, what is wrong with me? And this one night I had a Muslim friend and we started to speak a little bit about metaphysical things, you know, ghosts and okay, spirits and all that, does these things. So I started to, you know, like to speak about something out of the common. That was how it began. And I was like, okay, yeah, you know, ghosts, it's true that they might exist and things like, and then, you know, magics, all this stuff. And then one day I spoke to him and we were started to speak about God. And he said, yes, he must exist. He must exist. He said like that. And when he said like that, I was like, how come he's got so much faith that God exists? And I sort of sparked something in me that, yeah, maybe it's really a person that created everything, you know, and it became kind of a real thought more than something very far distant and like a religious zeal, you know, without any deepened understanding. So I was like trying to, okay, yeah, maybe it's true. So that day I went back to my house and this is when I unwrapped the Bhagavad Gita that my father had given me. And this is when I started to read. And I was like, whoa, this is something else, you know, and I was seeing all the knowledge that was in there. And I was like, oh, this is, I mean, like everything is just there, you know, every single answer to everything you can ask is boom, boom, boom. So of course, I didn't have the full faith that I have now. I was many things I was like, whoa, this is a bit too much. This is like that. But still, I kept reading because this was just completely out of anything I would have ever heard. Mm. So I kept reading and reading and reading. And after, you know, going through almost all of it, I was like, whoa, okay, I think I have to try that because this really seems like genuine. And this is when I started to take to the process. So the main process is to chant, basically, to chant the name of God. So I'll just take my beads there because I want to show you that. This is called a japa mala. It's in Sanskrit. Mala means like beads that are strung together. And japa means to simply recite the mantra to your own self. It's called japa. So on these beads, we chant the holy name of God. So there's a mantra. It's called the Maha mantra. Maha means great, and mantra means sound vibration that protects or releases your mind. So we chant like that: Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And then we go to the next beat, and there's 108 like that. And those who are initiated, we do like 16 of those rounds. So 16 times 108 of what I've just chanted. So I decided to start doing this. And as I was chanting daily, and keeping reading Bhagavad Gita, then my consciousness started to change. So then I was seeing, okay, this is not just some ritualistic, outwardly rituals that don't have any significant scientific change in my mind. You know, this is something that's actually working. And I was like, okay, I have to keep doing it. And I struggled a lot because, you know, I was coming, as I was telling you, from illicit sex, you know, meat eating, intoxication, you name it, you know, cigarettes, tea, coffee, all of it. And then to give up these things because these things are impediments to spiritual advancement, for me was tough. But by the chanting, I was seeing that it becomes easier and easier. How come, you know? So I was like, then something is going on there. So then I managed to give up, you know, meat in stages, and then alcohol. That went quite fast. What was hard was ganja. You know, I used to smoke marijuana, and I thought it was helping me in the beginning to have some kind of spiritual realization, but it's something else actually. So anyway, as I was continuing to chant and all, even that taste went away, and I could not explain why. So that's it, you know. So I began this spiritual life seriously in 2014. So it's been about 10 years now, and the change and the path since then, I mean, it's just it's like an adventure, you know. It's a real, everything has changed completely in my life. So that's it. So and my name at birth was Nitāi. So my parent gave me a name that's already related to God. So, and then when I took formal initiation, which means I officially sort of surrendered to the spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, then they added Nimāi in front, so Nimāi Nitāi, and Das is though means a servant. So because the philosophy is to become the servant of the servant of the servant of God. So to be very humble, you know, which is very contrary to modern day world where everybody's trying to step on others. But us, we try to become humbler and humbler and humbler and humbler. In fact, there's a prayer by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that says we should consider ourselves more humbler than the blade of grass. So in this way, trying to develop some humility, you know. So Das is added at the end of the name. So Nimāi Nitāi Dāsa has become my name now. So that's the little intro about myself.
Thank you.
Yeah, for telling us all that stuff.
One thing that kind of stuck out right at the beginning was when you pulled the Bhagavad Gita off. Are there? I'm totally new to this. Are there different versions of the Bhagavad Gita?
Okay, so yeah, that's a very good question. Bhagavad Gita, the original text, is unchanged. It is as it is. Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago. Okay, so if you open, you will see here there's some Sanskrit. You can see this is Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So this text is unchanged. Okay.
Yeah.
And most of the versions that you'll see, the translation is more or less accurate. Okay. More or less accurate. What is important though is the purport, that this be explained to you by a devotee of Krishna. That's the thing, you know. And unfortunately, most of the versions of the Bhagavad Gita that are out there are used for the purpose of the person who wants to, whatever, have his own philosophy put forward. For example, I'll give you a very famous example of a famous personality, Gandhi. So Gandhi, he was, you know, in politics to some extent, and he he has his non-violent movement, right? He wanted to rid the Britishers out of India through non-violence. So he wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita also. But he himself said that I do not think that a person called Krishna ever existed. So you see, so you take Krishna's words, but then you remove him from the equation. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita is famous all over India. He knew that if I write a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, everybody is going to read it. You see, and the Bhagavad Gita was actually spoken on a battlefield right before a great war. So there's Arjuna here. He was a prince in one of the greatest, if not the greatest dynasty that existed at the time. And Krishna speaks to him because he's about to fight in a war that involves his family members on both sides. And he's completely confused. He's dumbfounded. So he's put into a situation, God put him into a situation that we can all relate to, that we're completely confused. We don't know why is life always putting us in so much misery and so on. And then in that position, Krishna speaks to him the Bhagavad Gita right before the war starts. But the whole point was to motivate him to fight. But Gandhi tried to preach non-violence out of Bhagavad Gita, which was telling Arjuna that you must perform your duty no matter what, because this is your God-given duty. So you see, so you will have so many editions like that. There's many big swamis in India. They've written their edition, and Krishna will say something very clearly in the Sanskrit. It's not very hard to actually, because even Hindi is like practically 80-90% Sanskrit. So it's very easy for them to understand the original, but they'll twist the meaning. So that's why this one is Bhagavad Gita as it is, because it's presented as it is. Whatever Krishna says is simply expanded upon. And then now one might think that, well, is it the best way to receive Bhagavad Gita to simply repeat what Krishna says in a more elaborate manner, or can't we interpret it? Well, that's the text, you know, just like Shakespeare must be explained by Shakespeare. I cannot just take a Shakespeare text and pull out my own. He has his own ID when he writes his text. So that should be the, and there is a verse here. I'll show with the book first, and later on, if you allow me to maybe share screen, because we have the version on the computer, which would be much clearer. But this is chapter 4, text 2. I can just show you this here for now. So it is said here, you know, you can see there's the Sanskrit, then the how to read the Sanskrit with English. So I can read the verse. You can hear evam parampara pramtam imam raja shriyo vidu sakalane hamahata yoga nashta parantapa. So like that. And then the word by word translation. So you can be sure that this is, authorized translation. So it goes as such. It says, this supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in due course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. So one of the important point here is that this supreme science, so this Bhagavad Gita, was received through the chain of disciplic succession. What does that mean? That means that the original speaker, Krishna, spoke to someone who in turn heard and repeated as it is, and who in turn heard and repeated as it is, like that. So it's an unbroken chain of the original knowledge. So that's what we have to get ourselves linked to. Like this, you receive something that is pure. So my duty, me today, you're interviewing me, it's not to talk to you about what I think or it's just to present you that. Because I've got something, it's just like a fruit that's been hanging down from a very tall tree, and you hang it down and it's unbroken, So I'm just going to pass it like to you or your viewers. And after that, at least I'm not taking away your chance to choose. You see, because if I distort that, if what Krishna says and I'm presenting you something, I don't even give you the chance to accept or not. Whereas now, at least I'm giving you a chance. I'm presenting the knowledge, and you can accept or reject. Everybody has got their free will. That's fine. But at least my job will have been done, So, and you see, so this knowledge was received like that to a chain of disciplic succession. And Srila Prabhupada, the person that I spoke to you in the beginning, who brought that knowledge and gave it to the Western world, he's in that line of disciplic succession. You can trace back all the way to Krishna himself. So, and you can see that Krishna says the saintly kings understood it in that way. So that knowledge was meant for very elevated person in society, for kings, and mainly Brahmanas. Brahmanas are like the priestly order in society that are meant to learn this knowledge and teach it to others for free, This is how Vedic society was organized before. So so it was meant for them especially. So it's not something cheap, It's not, the Lord spoke that to Arjuna, who was a prince of the greatest family on earth at that time. So it's meant for very highly elevated people, but anybody can still take it to it. It's not that just a group of people, no. Because as soon as you say just a group of people, then where is the all-encompassing aspect of love of God, right? Love of God there should be no boundary. Not that I'm a Muslim, you're a Christian, he's Hindu, he's that, and then you cut. No, everybody should be spirit soul. We use this word, right? Spiritual, just like your channel, stay spiritual. People use this word because it's a catchy word. People, spiritual, but what is it? What does that mean? What does that mean to be spiritual? So this is where the Bhagavad Gita starts. It starts from that, So I can continue speaking if you want, or you can ask questions how you want to.
I had a couple of questions.
I don't want to hog everything. I got a million questions, but you can jump in if you want.
Yeah, I was just intrigued by the part of your story where you talked about living that carnal past that is so common to people in the West, just having lots of sex and intoxicants and all this stuff, and then going from that life to the life you lead now, slowly getting more, as your status as devotee increased. And I was just curious, how would you describe the change in your experience due to those two states? What was it like being the one way, and how is it? How's your experience?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So first thing is that if someone goes to the West and say, look, you don't have to give up, sex, you don't have to give up intoxication, you just do these postures of yoga and you'll advance spiritually. You'll get like 10,000, 100,000 followers very quickly, because people, they don't want to be giving up these things. So they are generally prone to be cheated. Just like all these yoga society, they go and sit together, like 100 people, and do some stretching, and they think they do yoga, and they take some selfie and look, I'm spiritual. If you're actually serious about that, you have to be willing to change things in your life. If your present condition is already perfect, then what's the need of you to go and seek? So the thing is that we have to surrender. We always listen to our own mind, our own ideas and all, but Vedic culture is about surrendering to a spiritual master. And the spiritual master will teach you that these things are good and these things are bad. You have to give up these things if you want to advance, you see. So the 4 pillars of sinful life that are given in the Vedas, which is, of course, hard for us Western people, especially. Even in India, it's tough some more and more, but for us especially. So it's illicit sex, which means sex outside marriage, intoxication, all the way down to tea, coffee, and cigarette, meat eating, and gambling. So these 4 things are the 4 pillars of sinful life. And if one wants to make progress in spiritual life, he has to give up these things. But the thing is, you will not be able to give up unless you start the process of chanting. That's the whole thing. And that's why this is the key. This is what you can see. This is the key. You see, there's a verse in the Vedas that says that a bona fide spiritual master can turn iron into gold. No, not literally, not meaning that iron into gold. The point is that he can turn the iron-like qualities of his disciple into gold-like qualities. So if you see that someone is following a spiritual master and his qualities are very changing from more degraded ones to more righteous ones, pious ones, then you can see that there's an actual bona fide change. But if I go and sit down and do some yoga and I think myself very highly, and then I go back and my life is exactly the same, and where's the actual change? You see? So there's this verse in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna speaks. So this is chapter 7, text 28. Say, Tesham dvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam tedvanvamoha nirmukta bhajante mam vridavrita. So he said, persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated. You see, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion. And they engage themselves in my service with determination. So to be able to engage oneself in God's service with full faith, full conviction, we have to be freed from delusion. Now, what is that delusion? That's the whole point of Bhagavad Gita, is to get out of that. Basically, it's to believe that we are this body. That's the misconception, to think that I'm this flesh and blood. But that delusion will not go away unless we are completely eradicated from sinful life. And you can see in the Western world, even Lord Jesus Christ, right? He said, I'm the commandment of Moses. Why? Because he wanted the Western, the people that he was preaching to get freed from sins. It's a fact. So this idea of being freed from sin is there. It's there in Buddhism, it's there in, Christianity. Of course, according to time, place, and circumstance, the preacher has to adapt to the capacity of the people. But there's all this idea of being purified. You have to purify your existence. Now you ask me, what did this change feel like? Yeah. I mean, you see, this material nature works under 3 headings. There's the mode of goodness, which is called sattva guna, the mode of passion, which is called rajaguna, and the mode of ignorance, which is called tamoguna. Everything that we see in life is a mixture of these 3 things to some greater or lesser amount. Okay, and when your mind and your intelligence and your senses start to go from the mode of ignorance, slowly rise to the mode of passion, to the mode of goodness, there are symptoms that are described in the Bhagavad Gita on how you will start to think, how you will start to feel. So for example, if the mind is too much in passion, then lust will be there. Like we as men will be looking at women really often, or we might indulge, in trying to waste our semen or so on. So this is due to the mode of passion. If you manage to remove the mode of passion from the mind and be situated in the mode of goodness, the mind will function in a different way. So I cannot really make you understand, because it's just like trying to describe a color to a blind person, or trying to describe, sweet to someone who hasn't tasted it. But there is description in the Bhagavad Gita to which qualities you're going to be developing when you start to get more and more purified. So it's in the 18th chapter, text 42.
Just as a quick, as a quick side thing, did you start your practice in a prior life then? Like, do you believe in multiple lives? And
yes, it's not a question of believing, it's a fact. It's a fact. You see, this is not like some idea of, this is science. That's the thing. This is science. You see, science means what? Experiment and practice. If these 2 things are there, it's science. Where is the science that we are this body? Where? They say this Darwin philosophy that we started from nothing, there was absolutely nothing, then there's a huge chunk, and then boom, and exploded, and stars and elephants came out later on. What kind of things is this? Where's the science behind that? You see, there's not one single experimental, successful, experiment that life comes from matter. Never occurred. Yet, we teach that in every single school in the world. Why? What is going on? What is this... why, there's an agenda behind this, I think, right? Why are we trying to make people so much atheistic? Where's the proof that life comes from matter? It's never been done. It's simply this Darwin came in, and actually he stole knowledge from the Vedas, because this gradual elevation from aquatic to birds and so on. It's there in the Vedas.
Yeah,
but it's not.
Remember we did a video on that?
Yeah. It's not the way he explained. It's not like that. It's the soul that transmigrates. You see, when the soul falls very low into the modes of nature we discussed just now, he will attain a body like that, of an animal, so an aquatic or whatever. So that soul that is there, his consciousness will be slowly start to expand. You see, animals, they don't have karma like we have. They go through their lives, and their consciousness only go upper and upper, and therefore, because their consciousness starts to raise, because by undergoing the suffering of animal life, they purge away some of their bad karma, they start to rise. So that let's say fish will die, and at one day that fish will become an animal on the land, and like that. So the soul goes from one body to another, and all the way to, there's three gates before the human body. So there's the monkeys, that's through the mode of ignorance, you will take birth as a human. Through the mode of passion is the lions, and through the mode of goodness is the cow. So like that. So it's not a question of whether reincarnation exists or not. We are already experiencing it. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that's how he speaks. That's how he starts. Arjuna was speaking on the bodily concept. Here are my grandfather, my uncle, my father-in-law. What am I going to do? You're asking me to kill them. So Krishna, immediately he cut that nonsense in. He said, look, you're speaking on the bodily concept. You're a king. You're supposed to understand higher values of life. So I'll just read a few verses where Arjuna is lamenting. You see, he's saying, this is chapter 129 onwards. He said, my whole body is trembling, my hair standing on end, my bow, Gandiva, is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. I'm unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself, and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. Then he says, I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. So you see, he's saying, like, this is not, I don't understand what's going on. You're asking me to kill my own, why? So his lamentation stops when he surrenders. This is 2:7 Bhagavad Gita. It's a very beautiful verse. He says, Karpanya dosho bhatasvapaha prechami tvam dharma samuda chetaha yachsteya sanishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadiman vam pratam. Shishyasteha means I'm your disciple now. Shadimam, instruct me. Tvam prapannam, I surrender to you. So spiritual life, real spiritual life comes from this point. When you stop thinking yourself and you just surrender to the spiritual master and you hear. So he says, now I'm confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I'm asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I'm your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. And from then, the Bhagavad Gita really starts. Because prior to that, it was sort of arguments in and out between Krishna and Arjuna. So Krishna, immediately he chastised Arjuna. He said, so here, 2:11, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So immediately he brings the conversation to a spiritual platform. We were saying what is spiritual, right? Then you talk about the soul. Spirit means eternal. It can never be destroyed, whereas material is ever changing and is always born and destroyed again and again. So then right after that, 2:12, he says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So immediately he's saying, look, you're saying they're going to die. I'm saying they are eternal. You are also eternal. I'm also eternal. We're never going to die. So immediately he pulls you out of the material consciousness, thinking I'm the body. And then, of course, we can think, well, okay, you're saying that, but what's the proof, right?
Are we eternal right now? Are all three of us doing this thing right now eternal?
Yes, because you're a spirit. You see, like Now you're talking to me. You've got emotions. You've got feelings. I'm talking to you. You're thinking and all. When you're dead, that same body, those same eyes, that same nose I'm seeing, that same mouth will be there. But if I push you, you won't reply. You won't do anything. So what is missing? That spark, that spiritual consciousness will have been gone. But body, it is only flesh, blood, stool, urine, all these things, mucus mixed together. So that's the vehicle that we're using at the moment. So to try to help us understand the very next verse, 2:13, Krishna says, as the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So he's giving you a clue here that, look, you had a baby body before. I had a baby. We were like this before, isn't it? All of us. So where's this body now? Where's the baby body?
So the big version, well, the baby body's gone.
Exactly. It is gone. What does that mean? That means there's something that's changing, but we're still here. So we're passing through different bodies already. You see, it's just like a clip, right? Like 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second. It's actually pictures, right? So all the pictures are flashing, and it gives you the illusion of being a continuous object. But it's many different objects. And because my consciousness is focused on the change, I'm thinking that it's the same thing. But actually, the first frame is gone, a second ago already. So similarly, this body of us has been changing. Even modern day scientists, they say that 7 years ago, all the cells in your body were not the same as now.
I love that one.
That means 7 years ago, you had a different heart, literally. You had a different brain, literally. You had different eyes, literally. So you've changed everything. So we say, my eyes, my brain, my heart, my arms. But who is the I? We all say, my mind, my intelligence tells me to, right? My ego. This is all my. So it's all an object, but not the subject. The subject is observing. The soul is observing all of this from within. See, so you see how the Lord speaks in a very concise way to make you, to give you as much information as possible, make you think. So we've changed already so many bodies. So if I've changed already so many bodies and they're all gone, dead and gone, and I'm still here, then the conclusion is that there's something that is changing and there's something that's not changing. That is, I'm conscious of that. Okay, so then what is changing? This body is obviously changing, hand. Okay, the mind is also changing. The mind of a child and the mind of an adult is changing. So we're not the mind. The way the intelligence works also is different. We take help from the intelligence, right? Hey, how am I going to fix that thing? I got it. Intelligence comes in and assists you. Look, you can fix the thing like that, right? It's like a second self. In the Vedas, intelligence is described as a second self. It's next to you, talking to you and giving you advice. Okay, you should do like that, according to your mode of nature again. So anyway, how am I going to do this? Okay, yeah, you do. So intelligence is also not the self. We are situated within all of this. So in the Vedas, it is said that we're covered. The soul is first of all covered by a layer of false ego, which is then covered by the layer of intelligence, which is then covered by the mind, which is then covered by the senses. Indriyani paranyarur indriyabhyam param manaham manasastu parabuddhiryo buddhehe paratastu saha. It describes how there's layers one after another, I think this is 340 something. Anyway, it is said, there's a verse, what I've just told you, there's a verse. It says that higher than it's 342. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Okay. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So Krishna is trying to let us understand what is it that we're swimming in. I don't know if you get my point here. We're swimming into all of that, right? We've got the mind, we've got the senses. Those who do meditation sometimes, if they actually perform properly, they can start to feel that they're inside and that, okay, the mind is here moving, always talking to me, blah, 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 blah. And then the intelligence is here, So we are covered with all of these material elements. And the whole idea is to get uncovered, or actually to purify those elements, you see, to make them spiritual. So Krishna, he speaks directly that you're not this body, you're spirit soul. And then there's another verse in the second chapter that is good also, it's 220. So he says, for the soul, there's neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He's unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He's not slain when the body is slain. So so then, okay, then the next question will be, well, all right, if I'm not this body and I'm going to continue, then the next intelligent question will be, what is my next step? What's my next life? Right? Like, because if everyone is a soul, even the animals, well, I don't want to become a pig, right? Because I'm seeing, you know, like, okay, it's not really a enjoyable existence. At least I can understand that from my higher perspective, right? The pig doesn't understand that.
Sometimes I like to hope that like something else is better than being a human, like a bee or something, you know, like what if the bees, you know, when they come
Well,
and they
you
find
see,
their honey,
the
they're
thing,
like they feel better
thing
than a
is that the
human's ever
human,
felt or something, you know?
well, all
What if it's
animals are
awesome being a bee?
diet.
I'm saying.
Well, I mean, you know, human beings have the chance to inquire. That's the thing. And even if you like being a bee, you cannot be a bee eternally. You have to die again. So it's still
Right.
temporary, you know. So, but human
That's why I
beings
like
have
honey so much.
maybe honey is good, yeah. So human beings have got this chance to understand higher values of life, whereas animals don't. You know, podcasts are made by humans, right? I mean, everything, inquiries is made by humans, but dogs, they cannot sit down here and I try to explain to him, it's not possible. They just don't have the intellectual capacity to do that. So the human form of life is especially there to give us a chance to understand these things. You see, like even Lord Jesus Christ said, right? Man is made in the image of God. That means that this man image, this image of man is the form that God has and is the highest within, you know, our realm. You know, of course,
Is there
Bhagavad
anything
Gita,
above us? Is there anything
yes,
above us? So
yes,
what
because
do
there's,
humans become?
okay, no, humans in the sense, humans are the highest in the sense that here we have got the chance for quick spiritual advancement. Whereas in heaven, where there's other beings that are much more advanced than us, I mean to say in everything, in culture, in science, in music, whatever, they are experiencing a very high level of material enjoyment. And therefore, they don't feel that it's so necessary to get out of it. Whereas us, we have just the right amount of, you know, suffering to give us a punch that, you know, this is not really a good place, and the right opportunity for spiritual advancement. This is why this earth is very special, you see. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, 925, those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So this is 925 Bhagavad Gita. So God is saying, if you worship me, then you will come to me. And this is in line with Lord Jesus Christ's instructions, Muhammad's instructions, you know, but of course, but then demigods. Demigods means, yes, there are higher beings. You know, we should not think that, oh, we're the only person in the universe. Can't you see all the billions of stars and all that are out there? Well, you think that we're the only one. It doesn't make sense. This is what we've been brainwashed with, you know, with all this atheistic education that we went through. We're the only one, you know, it's all empty. Why? So, and it makes sense. You can see how a human being is. If you increase the potential of that being, and you increase his quality, you increase his opulence, you increase, it will form something, right? So these beings are there. They're called the demigods. Then the ancestors, just like I live in China, they still worship ancestors. They always go offer the incense, you know, to the ancestors. That's because before, the entire world was Vedic. The entire world was ruled by Vedic culture. There was only one scriptures. It was the Vedas. You know, many religions and many scriptures started to break down later on during this age. We are in the age of Kali, you know, the iron age of quarrel. And this is where everything started. But before, we learned from the Vedas, from the Shastra, that the whole world was following Vedic culture. So I can see here in China, even the very old houses in China, they follow there's a Vedic scripture called Vastu, which is the art of architecture, how we should build our homes and all. And ancient Chinese house followed that exactly. And, you know, even Greek so-called mythology, it's not mythology. They used to worship demigods. Surya in Sanskrit, Surya is the sun god. In Greek is Apollo. The god of the water is Varuna. In Greek is Poseidon, I believe. So the whole culture was there. Actually, us Western white people, we're descendants of the Kshatriya race that was in India. There's a Kshatriya race, means the fighting race, the governing race, like the kings and soldiers and so on. We learned from Vedic history, as opposed to the history that we're learning with the agenda of who knows who. we are an offshoot of this Kshatriya race. So the Rome Empire and the Greek Empire were the Kshatriyas race that was in that Vedic culture. And this is why, if you study the Rome, how they the council, the assembly, we see those movies. You have the council of learned men that discuss, and then they give advice to the kings. And all. This is the Brahmana class. Vedic culture means it divides its society into 4 orders. There's the Brahmanas, which are the priests. They are the spiritual master of the whole society. They have to live very simply. They have 6 occupations: to learn the scriptures and teach the scriptures, to worship God and teach others how to worship God, and to accept donations and distribute whatever extra amount they have. They're not meant to, like material opulence. They're meant to live very simply, and they don't like work for someone. No, they're independent, but they're supported by the society. And these guide the Kshatriya class, which is the ruling class. So the ruling class in Vedic culture is not independent. The king is not like, I do what I want. He has to listen to the counsel of God-conscious men. And then he can rule his kingdom in a God-conscious way, because the king in the Vedas is called Naradeva, God among men. He has to be respected as God because he's supposed to carry the laws of God, not to be exploiting everybody and anyone like today, modern day. All those politicians, they're all self-interested. They have they don't care about us at all. But in Vedic times, it was not like that. The kings were very responsible. We have read it, Rajarshi. This science was meant exactly for saintly kings. They were like saintly person, but at the same time kings.
Well, isn't that because in the West here, we're kind of like the great experiment? When people came over to the West, it was the experiment of capitalism, the American dream. And so even the politicians that rise up end up being ones that champion the values of the new world.
The thing is this: our politicians are elected by us. And if the people are all rascals, then you'll get some rascal politicians.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing that we have a specific culture here in the West it's the bottom line is it's a capitalistic culture. And so,
well, the thing is, it's Lord Jesus Christ's teachings are very, very good. There's nothing, we're not about saying this religion or that religion, but be truthful. That's the thing. Don't be a make show. Like I'm Christian, but then I don't follow anything. Or I'm Muslim, I don't follow anything. I'm Buddhist, I don't follow anything. We're against the quack. You see, like there's no doubt that Lord Jesus Christ is empowered by God. There's no doubt that he's from a divine origin, and that he's one with God in the sense, that he's basically moving his mission on earth. It's just like if God came in a body and moved amongst us. We accept all of this, but the thing is, are you following? That's the thing. You see, the 10 commandments are there. Of course, this is another thing. If we go that side, I'll have a lot of things to say, but the point is that it's not just West or East, It's about, are you following the instructions of God? Sometimes people have a hard time defining what religion means. Religion is simple. The order given by God. That is religion. And if you follow that, you're religious. That's it. If you don't follow, you're irreligious. So, but we have, you see, as we spoke, there's mode of goodness, mode of passion, mode of ignorance, like that, right? This is the material nature, how it works. So naturally, there will be religions in the mode of goodness. There will be religions in the mode of passion, and there will be religions in the mode of ignorance. We spoke about it here, worship ghosts and spirits. This is also a type of religion, but it's in the mode of darkness, ignorance, because you're worshiping beings that are, completely in the mode of darkness, and you'll take birth among such beings. It's such a nice thing to become, a ghost so there's so many different categories of religion. So, but this Bhagavad Gita is spoken directly as the pure eternal religion. So it rises even above the mode of goodness, because this deals with eternality. And
is it a part of the Vedas? Is it a part of the Vedas? I know you're so excited. I love your passion. You're just like, but I'm curious about the Vedas.
You can slow me down if I go too. So yes, so Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata. Yeah. And the Mahabharata is one of the Itihasa. Itihasa means the great history. There's two main. There's the Mahabharata and the Ramayana.
Okay.
The Mahabharata and the Ramayana. So Mahabharata speaks about the Pandavas and Lord Krishna 5,000 years ago. Yeah. Ramayana goes millions of years ago, and it's about Lord Ram and so on. So it's part of the Vedas. But there's the 4 main Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, like that, and then 18 Puranas. But you see, even within the Vedas, there's so many scriptures that are also in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. It's not that Vedas is all pure. There's all, because you see, Vedas are the original sound that came at the beginning of the universe. These Vedas were not put into written form. It's a sound vibration. And that sound vibration was heard by those who existed at the very beginning of the universe. And at that time, they didn't have pens and paper because they were so pure that they hear one time and it's there. That's it. And then they would repeat the Vedas, the entire Vedas, they would repeat. So in this way, knowledge was transmitted through sound vibration. It was a sound vibration from guru to disciple, guru to disciple. Only 5,000 years ago have these things been put into written form, because now our brain, our capacity, we're all very dull. So we need in book format, we need like a iPhone or whatever to remember stuff. But sound vibration, just like if you buy an appliance, you buy a TV, there's a manual with it. So you think God is going to create an entire universe and not give you a manual on how to utilize it? So that original manual is Vedic literature. But because the Lord knows there is 3 modes and not every soul will be inhabiting a type of body that is pure, therefore I must give them a type of religion suited for them and at their stage. But that doesn't mean it's the end. It's an entire staircase that is done through many, many lifetimes, It's not just like we've read that verse, right? Those who acted piously in previous life and in this life also. So it's the whole, it doesn't make sense that, boom, you got one life. If you mess it up, you go to hell eternally. If you good, you go to hell. What about people who are born like, in tribes in Africa, or those who are born in Harlem in a ghetto, and that's it? They got this one life and then they go to hell eternally. Then what is the use of hell? That's my question. What's the use of hell?
Yeah, that's a good question.
We don't deny hell. We don't deny that there's, in the Vedas, it's also described. But the thing is, when a father punishes a son, it's with the aim that the son be rectified and to give him another chance. Not that you mess up now and I'll beat you until the end of your days, For what reason? Just because I'm a sadistic father. That's it. God is not said, he will give another chance. And from the Vedas, of course, again, according to time, place, and circumstance, the preacher, they have to adapt, because it's not everybody that, just like I'm telling you, this Bhagavad Gita was spoken to the prince of the highest family in the highest dynasty in the world. Whereas Lord Jesus Christ was speaking to some fishermen in the Middle East. There's different. No, I don't want to say that Lord Jesus Christ is not that. According to the time, place, and circumstance, God will send different, representative. So this transmigration, that body to body. So therefore, the Vedas, they will give different types of religion. Just now we've seen ghost worship. Even in the Vedas, you can find this. You want to worship ghosts? You want to become a witch or whatever? In the Vedas, there's many, like in the Garuda Purana, at one point I was reading, how to control people, all this kind of crazy stuff is there. For those who are attracted, you want at least that person will start to read about the Veda. And one day that person will come upon higher teachings. And if she's ready, hey, this seems higher than what I'm doing now. And in this way, you see, a step forward.
There's like an entryway for no matter where you're at in it. That's pretty genius.
Yes, no matter where they're at. Therefore, Vedas mean knowledge. The word Veda means knowledge. So if you can find out when knowledge started, you can find when the Vedas are started. So that's why when they say when were the Vedas written, you cannot put a date on Vedas, because Veda is the original sound vibration of knowledge that emanated at the beginning. But the problem is that now we don't have this Vedic culture anymore. So this gradual rising, of all the different types of religion in the mode of ignorance, it's not there anymore.
That's why I'm starting to get the idea of why you're so adamant about reciting the stuff, and that it's so pertinent to do that, because it's almost like upon reciting these things, that is the power to which has the ability to change your life or something like that.
Yes, but why? You see, so as we say, there's 3 modes. There's passion, goodness, passion, and ignorance. So there's going to be some sound vibration in the mode of ignorance, sound vibration in the mode of passion. And there's sound vibration that is transcendental to all these modes. And this is what Krishna is telling Arjuna in the 2nd chapter. Actually, even though, the Vedas are there and they're all praised in India and so many people, actually Krishna says that this Veda is not that important. He says, 246, he says, Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nirbandho Nitya Sadvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the 3 modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these 3 modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. So he's telling him, you know, these, because in the Vedas, you'll find a huge chunk of it is for elevation to heaven, pious activity. You do this type of act, you'll get that as a reward. You do this type of act. It's also there in not just the Vedic religion, it's there in Christianity, it's there in Islam, right? You do something good, you'll get something good. Like, you know, you trade off. But this brings you to heaven, and heaven is also temporary. It's not eternal. It's not the kingdom of God that Lord Jesus Christ spoke about. It's different. Heaven is just a place of enjoyment where people are all pious. Everybody believes in God in heaven. There's no atheistic there. It's all God-believing people, but they're not pure devotees. They know, they worship God, but they want something from God. They want business making. You see, I want beautiful women. Like in heaven, it says that the women in heaven, they see our women here and they look like frogs. That's like one of the statements. So that's how beautiful they are. So yeah.
Really?
It's
in this version of heaven, it's carnal again. It's a little bit carnal again.
Well, carnal but subtle. It's not like our, you know, stinky body. No, the heavenly bodies are much more pure. It's said that the women there, you know, they smell like lotus, and you can smell them like a mile around or 2 miles, you know, things like that. But this is not even interesting to a pure devotee, because the pure devotee knows that even though I go there, I'm going to come back here again, because you can only last as long as your pious merit are not exhausted. As soon as your pious merit is exhausted, boom, you fall down again.
Is there drinking in that heaven? Is there partying in that heaven?
Well, if there is here, there is there, because it's the modes. You see, just like you see, everything is about different degrees of the same activities. Okay, so like sense enjoyment, you know, those who are like doing very degraded type of drugs, they, you know, they shoot themselves, they think this is pleasure, you know, but when you come higher, you understand this is complete misery. You see, so similarly, those in heaven, they have got their drinks, but it's not like our you know, whiskey and stuff. It's not like that. You don't get a hangover. You know, it's something that is much more purer, but it's still an intoxicant. Yeah. But it's not like the low grade that we have here. They wouldn't touch the things that we drink, you know.
Right.
So eating is also there, but the eating there is not like our eating here. So it's all a degree, but all of that is also based with the intention that I want to enjoy my senses. You see, which is against. Not against, but which is not conducive to develop pure love of God. You see, if I didn't pinpoint that yet, the whole idea of this movement is to develop pure love for God. And pure love for God means to be freed from, I want to enjoy that for myself, or, you know, I want to speculate about who you are. Pure love means whatever you want, I will carry out. It doesn't matter. Whatever you do to me, I will still worship you. That is pure love. And even, you know, you see some example of that even in the Bible, you know, like I think is what is his name? The one who was taking everything away and
Job.
Still worship. Job. Yeah. So God took everything away from him, and Job said, never mind, you know, I'll still worship him. I don't care. So that is very close to pure devotional service, because he didn't care that now, you know, God has taken everything. Oh, that now I don't worship God. That is, of course, it's not bad to go to God to ask for something in your life. It's not, but it's not pure. That's the thing. You see, there's 4 types of person that start to worship God. Here it is said, chapter 7, text 14, text 16, 7:16, it says, O best of Bharatas, so Arjuna is in the Bharata dynasty, so he's, O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin rendering devotional service unto me. So to start to serve God: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So those who start to worship God are in one of these 4. So in distress, you know, if your life is completely full of misery, then you just realize that, oh, only God can help me. Then you start, my Lord, please help me. You start to pray to him. That's service. That's a type of devotional service, you know. You pray to him. So you're distressed. The other one is a desire of wealth. You know, I need money. You know, I've got kids. You know, I'd like to have more better stuff in my life. My Lord, please. So he's pious because at least he's praying to God. Whereas someone who's atheistic, I'll do everything myself. Everything is my own doing, you know. I'm going to bring about the result. There's no higher power that's going to stop me from that. You see, so it's opposite. Then the desire, the inquisitive, he's just, you know, just like now, Bhagavad Gita. I'm reading so many interesting verse. If someone picks up from your channel, whoa, that looks, you know, I want to get that knowledge. And he starts to read Bhagavad Gita, he's inquisitive. And he who's searching a knowledge of the absolute, he's considered kind of the highest of the neophytes, because he just wants to know what is the absolute truth. That's it.
Yeah.
And normally such a person will not be hampered by caste, creed, nation, religions. You see, you know, if
I think there's more of that type of seeker nowadays than there ever has been, you know, because of the opulence that we have, you know.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good observation. Because, and if you see, actually, there's in human society, and there's 4 different sections. And in Sanskrit, it's called Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Dharma means religion. Artha means economic development. Kama means sense enjoyment, sense gratification. And Moksha. Moksha means liberation. So a real civilization should have these 4. A Vedic civilization. So moksha, you see that moksha is the liberation. You have to be freed from the cycle of birth and death. Before, when the Vedic culture was there, people knew that. And even now, if you go to India, you go to any village that has not been so much touched, you know, by the Western influence and the big boom of, you know, Bollywood and so on. If you go to any village in India, they will say, yeah, of course there's karma. Of course there's reincarnation. Of course, what I do in this life, they will have an impact. So the culture was so well organized that even a villager who plants rice, he knows that I'm not this body. When I die, I'm going to continue. So even he has higher knowledge than our so-called leader in the West. You see, so Vedic culture was arranged like that. So, and a proper society needs to have these 4 things. So religious principles, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But the thing is this, is that it's a sort of cycle. You see, you were speaking of the our ancestors that went to North America, right? What is the first thing, one of the first thing almost that they built? Churches.
Yeah.
If you go to all old cities, I'm from an old city, Montreal is pretty old, New York is pretty old, right? It's all the East Coast, basically. Churches everywhere.
They're the oldest buildings.
Churches. You know, put God in the center of our life, you know, because they were like, oh man, this is the new place, you know, God, you protect us. So they were strong believers, even though they had so much hardship. Build a church, you know, people go to church, pray to God. That was it. So dharma, religion, you see, like Montreal is called the city of 100 churches or something, because you walk like 5 minutes church, 5 minute church. I'm sure there's many cities like that in America too. So church, you know, religion. Then second aspect, economic development. What happened in the early, like 1920s, 1930s, huge struggle, right, for economic development. Everybody was poor, but they were starting the industry and all. Boom, 1950, wow. Then everything went smooth. Everybody got a big car, big house, big. So third step, sense gratification. You had religion. Then from religion, you jumped into economic development. And then, through economic development, I can get sense gratification. So therefore, all of those who worship God for sense enjoyment, boom, I don't need to go there anymore. You see, then the churches started to slowly vanish. In the 1960s, they were still quite filled as the time of our parents, right? They were like going to church every Sundays and so on. My father also was, raised as a Christian. Every Sunday going to church, speak and span. So that was still there to some extent. Then the hippies came, liberation. I don't want that. You know, all this working, materialistic, the war in Vietnam, this whole, you know, they started to pick up on this materialism is not going to make us happy. What is going to make us happy? And they started to seek. So the thirst for this liberation was there. And therefore, they started to try this yoga and so on, you know, the whole hippie movement. Unfortunately, because most people that were going to the West were cheaters, most of them got cheated, actually. And they actually fell lower than their parents, instead of at least being some, you know, have a bit of an aristocracy of know how to. Now we're seeing what is generated into, you know, this LGBT crazy stuff and all. It all came from that, you know, because if you give up some religious principle like marriage is a religious principle. Marriage is not just like, no, marriage is part of religion, because a man and a woman are together, then they're united, at least it keeps society in order. If you start to go left and right, then women get polluted and so on. It's all spoken in the Bhagavad Gita also. And from that, the the progeny starts to degrade in quality. The qualities that the children have when they grow up is lower and lower and lower. There's more anger, there's more greed, there's more lust. And what we're seeing now is just the result of that. So it's a chain now. And now again, we're kind of sort of coming back, because now, okay, like even here in China, they have this huge economic development that like they've been booming for a decade, 2 decades almost. So now I can see more and more people are starting to feel tired about this, they're like just working, making, everybody's got money here. I mean, it's crazy. Like the cars you see outside, they're all nice. Like, so, but I can see they are seeking for something. So it's a rotation like that. So now that's why you're saying you're starting to notice that, because now the amount of sense gratification we have is huge. We got these cell phones, you got everything you want on that. You want a pizza, you press a button, you got pizza 10 minutes later. You got everything you want, but still you feel unsatisfied. Why? Because you're not this body. You're simply trying to gratify the senses of the body, but you're forgetting the soul. So in the Vedas, it says that the soul is like a bird and the body is like a cage. If you simply wash the cage, the bird will die. It's used, you have to feed the bird. And how to feed the bird? You must reconnect him with God. That's what we need. So by chanting the name of God, we are associating with God, because God is absolute. Any portion of him is him. You see, it's not like us. In the material world, things have duality, like water. You see, I need to take the water and drink it to have the effect. I cannot just say water, water, water. But water and the thing water are two separate things. They're two different entities. But in the spiritual world, everything is absolute. You take a fragment of it, it's the whole thing. Yeah. You see, so God, if you just chant his name, Krishna, then he's there. Krishna means all attractive, the all attractive. So who can be all attractive except God? Everything is a manifestation of his energy. Even those who don't believe in God, they're attracted to his energy. You see? Yeah. So they're indirectly attracted to him. It's not, like a boxing match, two guys fighting one another. Who created these muscles, these bones, these arms? Even the in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Paurusham Nrishu, I am the ability in man. It's not me who created it. It's not like our mother was sitting down in a yogic posture, like defining all our abilities and choosing our stats and, agility and strength. No, it's not like that. We were born and all this energy is God's energy, actually. Yeah. So, and we look at these two people fighting and we're like, wow, it's good. Yeah, you're attracted to God's energy. Yeah. You're not attracted.
And you got all the energy, man. I gotta jump in because I can't believe we're already past an hour, and I have 3 major questions that I wanted to hit on. Sure. After binge watching so much of your content, my 3 big ones were: 1, I want to hear the story about your guru, especially the part that when you talk about like his end or whatever, you call it his departure. Or, I'm curious about that. I'm curious about the Christ consciousness, and I'm curious about Vaishnavism.
The Christ consciousness? You mean Krishna consciousness?
Sorry, Krishna consciousness.
Krishna consciousness,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Krishna's consciousness and Vaishnavism kind of as its own piece.
Okay. So I'll begin with our spiritual master. So A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So he's the one who started, as I said in the beginning, he started this, he was ordered by his spiritual master, I want you to go to the West and give this knowledge to the Western people in English. That was when he first met him. He was 22 years old at that time. And that stayed with him all these years. And only when he was turning 70-year-old, did he go to America. Mm-hmm. And actually he had the chance to go on a freighter cargo ship to go to America. That's how he went. And along the way, he got 2 heart attacks and so on. And he was lonely there for about a year, going from place to place. And at one point, he just started to chant in the park. And and then slowly some hippies were coming, and he started to preach like that. And it started like that. He was completely one man alone. And in 11 years, from 1976, 77 to 1966, 65 to 1977, when he left this world. 11 years. In 11 years, he went around the globe 14 times to so many countries. He opened 108 temples. He did about 10,000 disciples. He wrote about 50 books in 11 years. Huh? And he was only sleeping some 2-3 hours at night only. So he is a genuine, fully self-realized, God-conscious person, a person that is in direct contact with God. For him, it's not like us where we have doubts. For him, God is a reality as much as this camera is a reality, because he has seen him. So such a person, such a self-realized soul, is the channel to go to God. Just like Lord Jesus Christ said, I'm the only way to go to God. We also accept, but actually the guru means the bona fide representative of God. You cannot go to God directly. It's not possible. You have to go through the spiritual master. So when, I do not know if Lord Jesus Christ actually said that, but definitely what he wanted to say is that to his followers, I'm the only way now. You know, for you, I'm the only way. That's a fact. But from Vedic culture, we understand that it's a chain of disciplic succession. There's spiritual master. So he is a bona fide, and the proof is that he was empowered by God to do that. It's not possible. I would like to share some links with you later on. Maybe you can see a little bit of what he's done. You know, there are footages you can see, like in
I watched some.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
what was it in San Francisco? There's a huge park in San Francisco, right? Forgot the name. Tens of thousands of people, at least maybe 100,000 people. You would see them walk. We had this very nice festival called the Ratha Festival, where we have 3 giant carts, and we bring the deity of the Lord on those carts, and we parade him. So the people that come, you know, it's like a festival. Everybody dance and chant, and there's very nice, sumptuous vegetarian food at the end. So you saw all this wave of hippie people just dancing and just in ecstasy and being so happy, you know. So this kind of influence, and it's genuine and it's authorized on the Bhagavad Gita and all. He did it, and he transformed those drug addicted hippies, which were all his disciples. His first disciples were all drug addicted hippies. He transformed them into people who have stopped all this, you know, those 4 pillars of sinful life. I told you, they stopped these things. So this is, you can see it's working. There's some magic happening here. How is it possible that some Western people who are completely, you know, the government is spending how many billions or millions a year to try to save those drug addicted? It doesn't work. They always fall down back again, or, you know, it's
The war on
1%.
drugs.
This is 100%. If you are seriously taking to this process, 100% of people change. So he's definitely an empowered spiritual master who has done great. And actually, throughout the years, as time goes, the whole world is going to be realizing more and more the importance of this movement. This is a fact. It's been predicted, actually. Prior to him going to the West, there was a previous spiritual master who said soon a personality will appear, and he will spread this Krishna consciousness movement throughout the whole world. And some decades later, Srila Prabhupada took birth, you know. So it's something that's predicted. 500 years ago, also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, this Hare Krishna chanting, Hare Krishna, will be sung in every town and village throughout the whole world. And now here I'm in China, and, you know, there's some Chinese devotees. So that is his history. Of course, there's like there's a movie about him. Maybe I can share some links later. When you upload that, maybe you can put those links in the description. I'll share that with you later on.
Okay.
So if people are interested in knowing more about him, you know, you can read that. But this Krishna consciousness movement, the beginning, actually, there's no beginning, because it's the eternal occupation of the soul to engage in service to God. You see, like all other forms of religion are based on the bodily concept that I'm this body, I'm Christian, Muslim, and all. But the Lord says that our eternal relationship is that you serve me, and in turn I try to please you. It's a loving reciprocation, just like a mother serves the child. You cannot deny that the mother is also a servant. She's not just a mother, she's also a servant. Put on your socks, eat that. So she's serving. Why? Out of love. Out of love, not out of fear. Like God's going to punish you, God's going to send you. No, out of love. My dear Lord, you know, you're so wonderful. I'd like to love you. I'd like to get to know you. And it becomes something concrete that you can grasp. As you progress spiritually, you start to feel that, yes, God exists. He's there, you know. You were asking me my change of consciousness. That's the main change of consciousness, that now I start to see God more and more in everything. And the perfection is to see God everywhere. There's this verse also in the 5th chapter, text 18. So the Lord says that the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle brahmana, so the priest that we said, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So he sees all of them equally. Why? Because he understands that they're all part and parcel of God. That's the thing. You see, there's no more distinction. When you come to spiritual, we say this word spiritual. Spiritual means it's everything is spiritual. There's no more distinction that this is my religion, this is your religion. Everything, everyone is spirit soul, and we're all part of the same absolute truth. That's it. There's no more outside of it. You know, everything is spiritual. But of course, I mean, you cannot artificially imitate that. You know, it's not, this is something that has to be realized. You cannot say, oh, everything is spiritual. Okay, I'll go kiss the tiger and so on. You know, it's not like that. So it has to be realized. And that's the aim. And so this knowledge, 434, has to be received by a spiritual master. Krishna says, 434 Bhagavad Gita, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So you see, you must find the bona fide spiritual master. Then you must inquire submissively, not challengingly. You know, why you think your thing is the best? What? No, submissive, like Arjuna, he said, okay, now I surrender to you. You instruct me. And render service. So it's really different from how we've been brought, you know. Like you can challenge the teacher, you're also that. The whole idea is to be very submissive, you know, to be very, try to render service and not like me, I'm the best, I'm the center of the universe. What are we? Huh? We're forced to be born, first of all. It's not our choice. Then we're forced to become old. We don't want. Then we'll be forced to die. What are we? We're in trouble. But we think that we're big people. You know, we'll take the microphone and talk to billions of people. Yeah. You know, all these politicians, they're going to die too. Ultimately, can they help me not die? You're also in the same boat, buddy. You're also going to be dying someday. So why are you standing there speaking to me? It's true. The real problem of life is birth, death, disease, and old age. These four things: birth, death, disease, old age. Can anybody free me from these four things? If not,
you know what I think of sometimes to get free from that? I try to literally think of myself as a face in a huge book. You know what I mean? Like I try to get a sense of the fact that there have been so many people come and go already that, like, you know, billions of people die that we don't know their names.
Yeah.
We don't know almost anything about them. And even some of these prominent figures throughout history, we know very little. We know the stories about them. We know what their likeness looks like on a statue, but we didn't actually know them. You know, like, so you're going to be dead so much longer than you were ever alive. Dead so long, in fact, that it's like, can it even hardly be said that you ever lived is how long you'll be dead.
Well, this year,
You know
you're coming to a conclusion.
That gives you a sense of temporariness.
Yeah, so, but that thing is, because it's your own way to do that, it will not stick. You see, that realization will not stand with you. And plus, it's based on the knowledge that what you think might be. You see, whereas if we take knowledge from the parampara that comes, it says that the soul never dies. So these people that you're saying, let's say Albert Einstein, okay, his legacy is here, people talk about him, but where is he? How do you know? Maybe he became a dog in some country somewhere. You don't know. You see, so his existence continues. It's not that the suffering has stopped because he died. This is not our choice. Birth was not our choice. Now we're growing older. It's not our choice. And we have to undergo misery, some disease. It's not our choice. We're being forced to go through these things. And death ultimately will not be our choice, but we have to go. So where does it come in the equation that now I say, okay, after death, there's nothing? It's never been my choosing. And already, if you say, okay, let's say that for those who are atheistic, we didn't exist before this body, before we took birth this time. Okay, prior to this, we didn't exist. Okay, all right, so zero, you were zero. Now you've been forced into existence. Can you deny this? Can anybody deny this? That no, I chose it. You cannot say you chose it. You did not exist before.
Don't remember. Don't remember if you did.
Well, okay. If you say you don't remember if I did, you must accept that you existed before. Right? Because
if that's what happens, I mean,
right. So
not everybody remembers their past lives.
Well, yeah. So some people might, but anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that from zero, from non-existence, you've been forced into existence, right? So for the atheist, okay, all right. Now that was not your choice. That you cannot argue upon. That you were forced to. So forced from 0 to 1. Yeah. Now from 1, you'll be forced into 0 again. You'll be forced to die, even though you don't want. Can anybody deny that? Nobody can give any arguments against that. We'll see it happening every day. Nobody wants to die, but everybody dies. 10%, you know.
Well, they might develop life extension, and then, you know, it's not crazy to think that you could live to be at least, you know, but
through how long? You know,
I'm just kidding.
What's the use? I've got a grandmother living with us here. She's 98 years old. What's the use of such a life?
Oh, congratulations to her. That's
She's
a good
well,
white baby.
not really. You know, what's the use? She's coughing and she's just suffering, and you know, she goes to pass stool, and I hear her scream like anything. Oh, great,
Oh,
98 years old. What is that? You know,
I'm
we
sorry to
want
hear that.
youth, eternal youthfulness. That's what we want. Not you know, being 120 and being an old slack. You know, no. So from 0 to 1, you're forced. Then from 1 to 0, you'll be forced to die again, right? So 0, 1, 0. Now, from 0 to 1, why not again? You've been forced after all. From non-existence into existence, it's not your choice. From existence to non-existence is not your choice. So again, your non-existence, who's telling that you cannot be forced again into existence? Nothing has been done by you. So we don't agree that they put this philosophy because they have no answer to the question. That's all. Scientists now that speak, you know, they're very big men, they push away the question of what comes after that. They don't want to discuss because they have no answer. And they know that if really there's something and I can get a body according to my activity, then my future life is very dark because they know they're sinful. You see, 8:16 Bhagavad Gita, it says, from the highest planet in the material world. So Krishna is speaking highest planet because in the Vedas it's described that there's different state of heavens also. It's not just one heaven. There's different heavens, you know, like in some plane, their 1 days are 1 year. So we go 1 year, for them is 1 day. But in one place, their 1 day, the highest heaven, their 1 day is our 4.32 billion years. That's 1 day for them. This is described in the Vedas. So from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So that's the place, that's the goal, that we want to go to a place where there's no, again, being forced to take birth. Because you might say that okay, there's misery, I don't mind, I can cope with it, you know, after all I've done it. Well, okay, but you cannot keep it anyway. Even if you like your life and you say you can deal with it, you cannot keep it. 8:6, it says, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So your state of mind when you die, that's the blueprint for your next gross body. Because we have two bodies. We have this gross body that I'm seeing, you're seeing, but we have the subtle body. It's the mind, the intelligence, and the ego. That's subtle. Like every time we dream at night, we go in our subtle body and we do so many things, you know? Right?
Has the soul always been, or did the soul have a beginning point? And if it does have a beginning point, and it goes through the reincarnation, this cycle, and the whole purpose is for it to get to the end of that cycle where it doesn't need to be reborn anymore.
Right.
How's that working out?
Good question. So you've pinpointed you know, you want to know where did it start, all this mess, right? So
Big Bang.
We've read elephants, planets. So when we read that verse 2:12, Krishna says, never was there a time when you did not exist, nor you know. So we are eternal. As soon as you come to spirit, there's no question of beginning. And that's something we can just not understand. Because our very body has a beginning, this world has a beginning. We can't cope with that. But it's like that. Now, okay, if I have never began, have I eternally been into this transmigration of birth and death and birth and death? No. How can it be? Because you're eternal. So the thing, you see the concept of original sin in the Bible. He's got some truth in it. What is that? The spiritual world is described as being eternally existing. The Lord is there and his devotees are there, and they have a personal relationship. Spiritual world means God is no longer something to not be found. He's there and you can have a relationship with him. But you have free will. We have this without free will, there's no question of love. It cannot exist. I cannot say I love you unless I can say I don't love you. I cannot say I want to be with you unless I can say I don't want to be with you. So this free will, God or Krishna will always let us have it. He will never take it away because as soon as you lose choice, you lose free, you're a stone. You're no longer someone who a living entity. Living entity means he's got free will. So therefore, Krishna, you know, he spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita. Today we've spoken maybe some 10 verses. There's 700 verses. Can you imagine how much knowledge is in there? So, but after speaking all of this, he said, I just try to find. He says, do what you wish to do. You see? He didn't say that you must accept what I'm telling you now. No, he said, now you deliberate on this and then you do what you wish to do. Anyway, I'm not finding the verse now, but he finished the Bhagavad Gita and he says, now deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. So this choice is there. So in the spiritual world, there's only one enjoyer, and that's God. He's and you see, that's the hard part, because this is the original mistake. Here in the material world, it's a perverted reflection of that. And that's what it is. It's in the spiritual world, God alone is the enjoyer, and everybody else is serving him. There's one central point. It's not me, get away. Like here, everybody is competing with one another. We're all trying to be, you see, God is described as having 6 opulence, full of these 6 opulence. He's the most beautiful. He's the most learned. He's the most wealthy. He's the most renowned. And he's the most, that's 5. He's the most renounced also. And I've missed one. He's got the greatest strength. So these 6, if you find a person that has these 6 opulence in full, that is God. Nobody can go above him. That is God. So you see, just like sometimes in the Western world, they depict God as an old man with a white beard. Why? Nobody likes to be old. Why would God be old? In the Vedas, he's described as Adi Purusham Navayovanam Cha. Adi Purusham means the oldest person. He's the oldest. Purana Purusham, the oldest. But Navayovanam, he is eternally youthful. He's eternally looking like a fresh youth. And every single living entity that lives with him in the spiritual world is also eternally young. And therefore, we want that. Nobody wants to be old. You know, old people, they see a lake in summertime. They want to jump right in and have a good swim, but they can't. So you can see that the spiritual desire is there to be eternally young, but it's hampered by the covering, this material body. So in the spiritual world, God is the primary enjoyer, and we are secondary enjoyer. By pleasing him, we become happy. And we see that a little bit here in the just like a very nice family. You know, everybody likes the father, right? The father is like the central figure. And then when the mother makes the father happy and the father becomes happy, then the children, oh, that is happy. You know, they become happy also because that person is pleased. So that is the way to unite every living entity, is to put God in the center. Of course, it's hard to accept, because we've got this rebellious mentality. You know, we want to do things ourselves. We want to I want to be seen as the great. But if you bring God in the picture, then where is your renown? Where is your wealth? Who are you in comparison to him? In the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He say, all these planets that you see belong to me. How you can compete with that? You're Rockefeller, you're this and that. You know, they're nothing. So as soon as you bring God into the picture, then there's no question about you anymore. You become subservient to him, and that's the hard part. That's the ego, that no, I don't want to be independent, and boom, you know. That's why you need a spiritual master that's going to hit you on the ego with a hammer. Like, look, you're not independent. You're under the laws of material nature. You don't want to become old, you're becoming old. You don't want to die, you're going to die. You don't want to be sick, you're going to sick. You're fully under the laws. So don't think that you're independent. We think we're independent. That's the whole idea, you know. We think I can do things. How independent? You eat more than what you're supposed to, you get an indigestion. So many laws of nature are just ruling our existence at every step of the way. But we think, you know,
it's true. There's you have so much to say. I hope the people that watch this go and check out your channel, because you've got a lot on there. As this has been going along, I've recognized myself nodding sometimes with stuff that I would have to double think about. You mentioned something about LGBTQ in there that I was nodding along at the time with, that I don't know that I agree, but I'm actually curious if the LGBTQ stuff is anti.
We don't want to be saying this is bad. You see, illicit sex, according to, if one wants to be serious in advancing spiritually, illicit sex is bad.
What is illicit sex exactly?
Illicit means outside marriage. You see, and in the stricter sense, for the sake of procreating God-given children. That is the strict sense. So we don't want to say LGBTQ is outside, they cannot go to God, or this is outside. No. When I refer to this LGBT, I refer that this is a symptom of this illicit sex being set loose in society. It's just one of the steps. There's other. It's not that a man who has sex with a woman outside marriage is better than the LGBT. No. Everything that is not in accordance with the instructions of God is irreligion. And when irreligion becomes prominent in society, then you get bad, you get population with bad qualities.
Are different sects of Hinduism got more strict and then looser rules on that, or is it pretty across the board?
You see, when you speak of sect, immediately you come to the material platform, as we've discussed, right? Material religion, like religion in the mode of ignorance, passion. So yes, you'll have some crazy stuff because you get the modes. The modes means all variety is there, So you'll have some crazy, like Kama Sutra. Why Kama Sutra is there? Kama Sutra means different postures of sexual things. Oh, it's there in the Vedas. But does that mean this is like spiritual? No, it's material. It's made for people who are extremely lusty. You see, so this is there also, but we're not interested today. As I said, I want to present the knowledge as I've received it from my spiritual master, which is the transcendental knowledge. It's above the three modes. If you want to discuss all the Vedas, and you said Hinduism, this word doesn't appear in the Vedas. It's a concocted word from the Muslims that was tagged on people living in.
Sanatana Dharma better to be used?
Yes, Sanatana Dharma is there, but even that is used now. Of course, it's a bona fide word. This word is there in the Vedas, Sanatana Dharma, but people use it as they understand it. You see, Sanatana means eternal, and Dharma means occupation. Or they sometimes translate that religion, but the real translation is the eternal quality or eternal occupation. Just like the Dharma of fire is illumination and heat. You cannot separate it from fire. It's eternally there. As soon as you say fire is not hot, then it's not fire anymore. It's one, it's together. Or the Dharma of sugar is to be sweet. As soon as sugar is not sweet, it's not sugar anymore. So Sanata, eternal religion means we are all servants. You see, even though you don't want to serve God, here in the material world, we're still serving. We're serving our community, we're serving our children, or we're serving our parents, or we're serving our senses. Right? No, I live alone, I don't care, I'm in the wood. And still, your senses are going to say, hey, now you want some pizza. All right. And your whole body is serving your tongue. You see, so we're always like serving. So this is the eternal occupation of the living entity. Now, where that service has to be put on, that's the question. Should I serve my dog or should I serve God? You see, now, of course, there's nothing wrong with having a dog, but the thing is, don't forget God. That's the idea. So this LGBT, we don't say they're damned, they're going to hell. Is that anybody can come to God? Anyone. There's no restriction at all, but it's not according to your own terms. It's according to God's terms. The way that he says that this is how you can purify yourself, you must accept it. So sex is, as a whole, if it's not done for progeny, a God-given, at least within sacred marriage, between husband and wife, then whatever is that is illicit. And he says, even in the 9th chapter of 7:11, he says, 7th chapter, text 11, he says, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So if you have this sex in order to, within the corpus of religious principles, within the realm of religious principles, with the aim of, I want to get good progeny so that this earth has more, God-conscious people, that is God. That sex life represents God. It's not irreligious. So like that. And I'll just go back maybe because you had 3 questions that you had said, right? So one was master, then about this Krishna consciousness movement.
Krishna consciousness, and then Vaishnavism as a
Vaishnavism. So Vaishnavism and Krishna consciousness are pretty much the same thing. Vaishnavism means to be a Vaishnava. Within this name Vaishnava, there's the name Vishnu. Yeah. So Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead. So Vaishnava is one who worships him. You see, that's a point that I didn't stress so much because generally people who are new, they might have a hard time. But you see, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he is that supreme Lord. He says, Mattaha parataram nanyat. He said, there's no one above me. And he says, Sarvascha chaham hridisani vishto. I am in everybody's heart. And 10:8, he says, everything emanates from me. So if one accepts Bhagavad Gita, the ultimate conclusion is that Krishna, he came 5,000 years ago himself, and he spoke the Bhagavad Gita and says, here I am. That personality which you are looking for is me. And why would he come? Why would you see? That's another thing. If God is fully powerful, why doesn't he come here? Right? So, but here it says that he comes. So he says in the 4th chapter, text 5, he says, the personality of God had said, many, many births, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. or subduer of the enemy. So Krishna says that he comes very often to the material world. But that doesn't mean that when he comes, he's not there in the spiritual world also. We have a conception that, okay, he's here, he's not there. God is everywhere. He's everywhere, but in his original form, he's not. So then he says, although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I'm the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Now, millennium here doesn't mean 1,000 years. It means an entire day, universal day, which is 4.32 billion years. So once in that, he comes once to our place, but in his original form. Now there's other incarnations of his, like Lord Jesus Christ. He's an incarnation, but he's called Shakti Avesha. He's a living entity. He's not God, but he's empowered by God. He's moved by God. So his activities are God. You see, it's just like a puppeteer. The puppeteer is not the puppet, but the puppet moves only in accordance with the puppeteer.
Can you do a practice to become puppeteer? Can you do something where you're like, I now give my spirit to be puppeteered by Krishna?
This whole process is to become controlled by him. You see, because there's two energies. There's the spiritual energy, which is God's internal energy, and there's the external energy, which is also God's energy. But just like, okay, police is also government servant, right? But then you have teachers and you have, hospital. This is all government servant. But if you are helped by like the governmental people, you're under the good energy of the government, you can say. But if you're ruled by the police, that means you're a criminal. You see, you're ruled, you're going to jail, and you have to follow some very strict laws. So at the time being, us in the material world, we are in that external energy, which means that police force, because we do not want to live in harmony with the eternal established order of God. That's why we're here. You see, so Lord Jesus Christ comes from the higher realm to the lower realm to preach according to time, place, and circumstance, you see. But here, Srila Prabhupada is the same thing. He came also to speak to us about this eternal kingdom. So once you transfer from material energy, when you're in the material energy, you are the puppeteer in the hands of material nature. She uses you to keep yourself and other souls locked in. But when you come under the spiritual energy, God uses you to liberate yourself and others. So there's two things. There's one that goes here, it's eternally cycle of birth and death, and the other is get out of here and come back to the spiritual world. That's what he wants. God doesn't want us to go through all this mess that's going on, all this suffering. He doesn't want that. But because we've got free will, we want to do it. I want to do this. I want to rape a woman. I want to kill. I want to that. I want to that. You've got free will. You're entangled. And you have to do all these things. And you see the law of karma is there also. Whatever I do, I must go through. Tit for tat. So if I rape someone in this life, I have to become a woman and be raped. You see, so this is because I'm dealing with the material energy here. I'm not taking guidance from my eternal Father, and I'm trying to arrange things in this material world. So I'll get burned naturally. So then he says, 4.7, whenever and wherever there's a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Then he says, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So of course I point, but I'm saying as if he's speaking himself. So he comes and he's showing himself and he's speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So that is the gist. Now, Srila Prabhupada came recently and he gave us the pure teachings. After he departed, I just give you a brief thing. I won't elaborate too much. After he left, some of his disciples became ambitious, and therefore, and like every big movement, they knew that, oh, I can get worship, I can be guru, people will wash my feet, people will bow down to me. Wow, this is attractive, so they took the post of guru without being qualified, and now the main branch of the movement is ruled by them, by people who are not on the level of Srila Prabhupada, Lord Jesus, like that, but they pose as if, just like last week, there's this lady who she said, because now in this movement, there's so many so-called gurus. So she said, yeah, I had sex with this guru, he was so these people are falling down left and right. It's happening with Christianity. It's happening everywhere. This is the nature of this material world. Everything degrades. A beautiful rose, it will faint. It's the nature. Only God, when he comes, he brings back, or he sends his representative, then he brings back, and then again it degrades, and then he raises again, and then again, you know. So those who are fortunate, when he comes and he speaks his instruction, that's the time. That's like, oh, okay, now I got a chance. Now I can leave, you know, before again it starts to degrade. So any
have we exhausted you? Finally, we finally like
no. Actually, it's described in the Bhagavad Gita that when you speak of God, one of the things is that you don't feel tired. When it's bona fide, when it's really, you're connected and you don't feel exhausted, you know. And this is natural. Not only me, but I have many friends also who are following this path, and when they give class, they can give 3, 4, 5 hours, you know.
Yeah, this is natural, everybody. This is like what I'm saying is that's a selling point for people that are lacking energy. They're like, I can't figure it out, man. I've done nothing and I'm out of ideas.
Well, naturally, if one becomes God conscious, naturally he would get more energy and he will need to sleep less, because sleep is an influence of the mode of ignorance. The more you're in the mode of ignorance, the more you'll be lazy, the more you'll sleep. So if you rise to the mode of goodness more and more, you'll require less sleep. Like personally, I wake up at 3 a.m. every day, you know, and I would not think of not waking up at this time. So when I'm very tired, I'll wake up at 4, you know, but I mean, I wake up early. Not in the beginning, I was like, what? You people wake up at 4 a.m. What is it? You know, what's going on? And I didn't like it, but you have to do some austerity, you know, without austerity, without saying, okay, I must do that. I must, you know, like even the big scientists, they have to do some austerity, like Elon Musk, you know, he says he hardly sleeps and does that. He has to do some austerity to build his big company. So you want to do that and you need austerity, but what about the mission of leaving this material world and going back? You think that doesn't require endeavor? You know, it requires seriousness.
Yeah. Nimāi, I would like to thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all this with us. It's been great. I'm sure we could keep going. But maybe we'll have to do this again sometime. But before we go, why don't you let our audience know where they can find you, what you got going on, and all that good stuff?
Okay, well, where they can find me is not that important, but I'll still, I guess maybe you can put the link to my YouTube channel
for sure.
In the description. And if you go to my YouTube channel, you do a bit of searching in the description, you'll find my number there and my email. It's pretty easy to find. So if they're very eager to contact me, you can go through that path. But what I would really like to stress is try to order this book that I've spoken from today. It's very easy. You go on Google, you type Bhagavad Gita as it is from Srila Prabhupada, you know. And of course, the title of His Divine Grace is long. You see His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. But if you type Bhagavad Gita as it is, and you see some sort of similar picture, and you see this from Prabhupada, you can order it. It's there on Amazon, it's on our eBay, it's there all over the world. They have all the languages, Spanish, Chinese, whatever. So why don't you order that and give it a try? You know, read one verse a day or something and see what's inside, see if you like it.
Great. Well, thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Yes, thank you. Thanks a lot.